Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Truth Wanted. Tonight, I will be hosting. My name is ExXtian Erin, and my special guest tonight is no other than MD Aware. Hi, M. Going based on your Twitter handle, MD. But so tonight we are hoping to get some calls in for people who want to talk to either MD or myself. If you want to call in, the lines are open. The number is 512-991-9242, or you can connect through your computer at tiny.cc/calltw. So MD, I'm really excited that we get to host together. We tried to do this a couple of weeks ago, but then I got sick. Dan helped me out there, and then you guys had a great show, but I was jealous because you and I have not actually hosted yet together, and you've been with us here for a couple of months now.
Yeah, I suppose so. Time really flies, though.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say that you may or may not have helped us in this last couple of months because as a show we just hit 20,000 subscribers. So I'm just gonna say that. Thanks for coming on and helping us hit that number.
I'm very happy to take the credit for that one. So yes, those last couple hundred or whatever you were lacking, that was all me.
Yeah, and Dan might have, started it off a little bit, but all of us extras here, we were the ones that got us over that last hump there. But we would love if we could keep seeing that number go up. That would be great. Because we have a lot of fun here. And the show, I think Truth Wanted is one of the, maybe the most special show on the ACA, on the Atheist Community of Austin's programming, because we take all sorts of calls. We like to talk about anything, not just religion, but if you've had any, maybe you believe in other things like aliens or something, maybe you've had a really wild experience with crystals or alternative medicine, we would love to have those calls as well. So give us a call. We've got a few lines more that are open still. And we already do have some calls on the line. I'm not sure. I think we might just jump into the calls tonight because I have a feeling like we're going to get quite a few things going on in this evening. So does that sound okay with you?
I love that content. Give me the callers.
Yes, I know. Okay, so we're going to jump into the calls very quickly here. The first thing we need to do, though, as always on Truth Wanted, the first thing we want to do before we take calls is to do a shout out to our patron of the week. So one of the best ways that you can support the show here at Truth Wanted is to become a Patreon. Every single week we try to take some time and choose somebody from our Patreon list and give them a special shout out and put their name up on the screen here. So this week we're going to give a special shout out to silent drum roll. Maybe they're just all special this week. Or we're just going to thank all of our patrons. What's that?
Is the crew asleep at the wheel?
Yeah, maybe. Okay, we'll just thank out all of our patrons that help us in that way, because that is one of the best ways that you can show support for the show. So another way you can do it is through the membership on YouTube, and there's tons of ways. We'll go over some throughout the show. So that didn't work. So let's just get into some calls because that's the good stuff.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, so first we're going to take a call. This caller has been patiently waiting for us to start the show, and finally, I just wanted to say that we finally got our wish here on all of our atheist call-in shows that we have somebody calling in who identifies as God himself. So are you there, God?
Yeah, this is God speaking, G-O-D here. God.
The G-O-D.
Jehovah, whatever you want to call me. You got the Christian God here. The Trinity God. Nice. You got the Elohim.
I have a lot of questions.
We're a little bit separated at the moment, so we're always one, but I mean,
yeah,
the other two are doing their own thing at the moment. You know what I mean?
Like Jesus and the Holy Spirit, you mean?
Yeah, they're doing their own thing at the moment, baby. They're doing their own thing, their sweet cakes.
Okay.
So is this Trinity situation? This is my first question. Is this Trinity situation like a split personality thing, like on Moon Knight? Like, are you like the Mark, and then maybe Jesus is the Stephen or something?
You would, huh? The host. The guy who I'm speaking to didn't hear the last part of what you said, so I can't answer your question. That would be proving my existence to him.
That Holy Spirit is such a bad interpreter.
It's true. But it says here, God, that you want to have a conversation about your own existence. Is that right?
Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about it from a philosophical level and aspect. I thought that would be an interesting conversation for the both of you two to have.
Sure, go for it. What do you got? What do you think?
You're the humans I created. Don't you have any questions for me?
Well, I mean, you're calling and you want us to believe you exist.
Yeah.
Well, why should we believe you exist?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It says I want you to. I mean, where does it say that in any of the holy books? I mean, it says believe in me. I mean, believe in me could simply be like, look to me, believe in me. That could mean like, hey ho, believe in my spirit. Believe, not believe. I mean, you're never really. Do you think you're ever really gonna get proof of my existence?
Well, I don't know whether or not we are, but I think that we shouldn't believe it until we do.
To reveal to you, this is what I'm trying to reveal. Faith is still going to be required in heaven.
Oh, really?
Well, what is faith?
People, would you believe it? Would you believe it if I told you that there are some people who have died since they saw the Matrix movie in heaven and believe this is a part of the virtual simulation thing? They think their whole spirit leaving their body and going to heaven was just a part of the Matrix thing. They thought it was part of the virtual simulation.
I think that I can believe that a lot of different people believe a lot of different things, but I mean, we are the call-in show where we talk about claims, and I'm really curious as God, do you have any beliefs? Do you have any beliefs that you would like to discuss with us? Do you believe in a God higher than yourself?
I fear the hammer of a God higher than myself, which is why I always temper my punishments with mercy and grace. Yes. Okay. I will reveal that to the earth and to the world. So I believe in the hammer and fear the hammer of a higher God. Not any other God that I've encountered yet.
Okay, so there's a sense that there is some sort of accountability to something higher than yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a God higher than that God?
Did you hear the question?
That God, if the God higher than me, if the God higher than me deals out punishment and is more vengeful than I am on certain occasions, let's just say I hope to God there is a God higher than that one, and I hope he's as gracious and as merciful as I am.
So it's turtles all the way down and God's all the way up.
More power.
Yeah.
I said so it's turtles all the way down and it's God's all the way up. Is that what you're saying?
There's no God. I've met no God greater than I. I'm not saying there aren't other gods. I've met no gods greater than I. But I would say, to leave it in the mysterious ball court, let's say, I do have a sense that there is something that should be in myself. I have a sense that I should fear a God greater than I, because not even I can see the ends of all things. Even though
I have a question. Why should someone believe something? What reason should I have? What criteria need to be fulfilled for me to believe something, for me to be justified in believing something?
Why does a man die for the one he loves?
Okay, no rhetorical questions, please.
Yeah, let's back up. Let's back up here.
Taxation without taxation for a nation to be formed.
I think, can we back up here for just a second? Because, excuse me, God.
We can back up. How far do you want to back up, sister?
I just want to back up to MD's last question. He was just asking you, how did you phrase it, MD? You said, what is a good reason to believe in something? Is that what you said?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so you have this intuition that there's accountability to something higher than yourself. Whether we're talking about you or the character of God, you yourself have said that you have an intuition that you live as though there will be consequences to your actions, and that this higher being will judge you or treat you or punish you possibly. Would that be a good punishment for your actions? So MD asks you, what is a good reason, or what is something? Why do we believe in things? What is a good reason to believe in something? Because you believe in this God whom will judge you. So what do you think is a good reason to believe in something? You know what?
There are many good reasons. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I would say you think you might have me fleshed up on this question. You think you're going to get me?
No, I don't.
On this question.
I have. Oh no. I'm actually just trying to.
You have to understand. That's a big question, because I know atheists and the host of this, the guy who's hosting me and who I'm driving, the guy whose jaw I'm driving right now and whose lips I'm moving and whose mouth I'm moving right now, he doesn't have the wisdom or the wherewithal to answer that question. He would say, part of him would say truth, and another part of him would say romance and passion.
Okay. First, I wanted to say that
believe?
Hard for me to.
Go ahead, Erin.
Yeah, I just want to say,
for me, it would.
Hang on a second here. I just wanted to be very I'm not trying to get you. I don't think that I have you figured out or anything. I'm trying to maybe summarize a little bit of what we've talked about so far and kind of head in a direction. I mean, the show is called Truth Wanted. We generally do ask people what they believe and why. So I think it'd be good if we can kind of steer the conversation that way and talk about, why do you believe what you believe, and maybe why and how. Does that make sense?
Why does God believe what he believes?
Sure.
God believes in what he believes for a myriad of reasons. The biggest thing I believe in is the endurance of the human spirit and soul and heart.
What do you mean by that? The endurance of, so a person, their whole person, because there's a lot of different things, person, soul, heart. We'll just kind of maybe run with someone's overall person.
I mean, I don't even know what that means. Can you explain what that means?
The endurance of somebody, let's boil it down to the endurance of the spirit. I'm sure you've heard someone say the endurance of the soul.
What's the spirit? I don't know what that means.
The spirit is what gives you life. The spirit is where your life comes from. The spirit is what animates the body. The spirit is what wills your body to get out of the bed in the morning. The spirit or the soul
I think my brain does that. I think my brain is what tells my body to the rest of my body to get out of bed. It sends the signals to my muscles to move and all that stuff, right?
Automatically, or before you get out of bed, does your brain automatically tell your body to do that before or after it does it? Does it tell
the brain sends the signal. The brain sends the signal to the muscles to move, and the idea to get up actually arises in my brain before my conscious mind is aware of it.
So you have no. So pretty much you have no free will over the movement of your own body.
I think that that's probably true. Yeah.
Then you're walking.
I don't really believe in free will. I'm kind of like a compatibilist, but I don't think I believe in free will in the way that you think about free will.
God,
then you're a walking hazard. Then you're a walking hazard. If you don't have
explain,
you're a walking hazard.
What's hazardous about that?
You can't. You just by the omission of your own mouth explain that you can't control the workings of your own body in real time. If you can't control the workings of your body in real time, then you're a hazard to you and everyone around yourself.
Why? So in that sentence you said that I am a hazard because I can't control myself. The I is essentially my brain, right? My brain is always in control of my body and to a limited extent, I guess, my thoughts. What do you mean?
What controls the brain? You say the brain is in control of the body, but how is the brain in control of the body?
Well, because the brain sends the messages through the nerves to the muscles, and that's what controls the movements of the body. I mean, there could be,
but the brain has also decided that some brains have decided they don't want to get abortions, so that they don't make their bodies get abortions. Some brains have decided they don't want to sacrifice babies. Some brains decided long ago sacrificing babies to Moloch was a bad idea, so they fucking stopped doing it.
Right.
So I think
I have a question for you about this.
I'll tell you what.
Related.
I'll tell you what. There are some things that I could say that would very much make you hang up on me right now, and that would very much prove that you've got free will.
I do have a question for you about this. Just quickly here. Does the idea of having free will is it dependent on your belief in, like, say, an immaterial soul or something about us that is, you say, an enduring part of our spirit? If it were to be proven to you that, or proven sufficiently to you that we do have some sort of determinism with our brains, and if MD were to give you a whole presentation on how the brain works and convince you of that, would that affect your belief in this enduring or immaterial soul?
He'd have to convince. He'd have to number one, and I'm already aware of all these things and know the level of deterministic free will. It actually, if you want to know the truth about it, some people's will are a little. Some people have total true free will, as in totalitarianistic free will. In a way, everyone really does have a certain level of totalitarianistic free will to begin with, because everyone at least gets one person they can kill before they get put in prison.
I think we could continue to talk about the free will debate, but I'm curious. Did you answer me about that? Whether the free will question, whether it's true or not? I'm not saying whether it is or not. I'm not having that argument. I'm wondering that if free will was imperative for you to believe in having an immaterial soul, because it kind of seems like those things are highly connected for you.
Well, I missed the host missed the last part of the host that is the channeler missed the last part of what you just said. But free will is a very important subject to me because it was a gift given to all men. So, and it was kind of part and parcel with the whole way everything had to run.
You can claim that. That's part of you can continue to make claims like that. Do you think that having free will is the most important thing that convinces you that we have an immaterial soul? And that is that the reason why you believe, because you have that sense?
I don't believe that. It's not the belief. It's not the fact of free will that gives me the knowledge, of the soul or the spirit. I can see the soul and the spirit. I know it's there. Oh,
really? You can see it. You can see the soul, because would you agree that you would say that the soul is like an immaterial thing, or are you talking about you can actually see the soul? Like, are we talking about auras or like some sort of like that? Or are you just describing someone's personality or personhood?
The soul is the inner self that looks just like you, that looks just like your radiant self, your true radiant self, glowing with an ethereal light.
What's a true radiant self?
Yeah.
How old is my true radiant self? Because I look different now than I did when I was 7.
However old you want to or need to be in the moment, or however old you'd like to be in the moment.
So it's non-permanent. It looks different depending on how I'm feeling.
It can be permanent if you want it to be.
So what exactly is a true radiant soul? What does that mean?
True radiant soul, that's a soul that's on the more pure side, that lived a very morally copiable life, or several morally copiable lives.
I'll leave you with one more question here, because I do kind of feel like we're just going to kind of keep chasing this dog tail on this one, and we're going to keep going in circles. I just wanted to like leave you with maybe like one more thought.
This is the greatest interview. This is the greatest interview in your career. Are you kidding?
We're having a great time. I'm personally having a great time. I love this. But we do have lots of other calls on the line, and I gotta kind of give it. I kind of got to give it, just a certain amount of time for each call. My biggest kind of takeaway, or my last question for you here tonight, Sir God, is that how are you going about determining whether these intuitions that you have about the soul and spirit are real, or if they are just kind of part of your imaginations on how you are conceiving personality? I don't think we're going to get much answer on that tonight, but like, I would love for you to call back, God. I still think it's a great thing that we got God to call into the show. I'm a little bit underwhelmed by God's communication, but I should have maybe expected that a little bit. So
yeah,
I don't know.
God, if you call in again, I wonder if you could call with a more focused question or topic of conversation. This felt a little bit scattershot, and I'd really like to talk to you again, but I want to talk to you when it's like more focused.
Yeah, I agree. But I appreciate you calling in, God. I'm going to let you go tonight. It was nice to meet you, I guess. I'm like I said, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by the interaction with God, but when I think about it on a deeper level, I'm maybe not surprised. I feel really confused. I think God maybe is the author of confusion. I don't know. So
I mean, it sounds like God was having some communication errors with whatever vessel human he was using to call the show. That's so maybe he needs to figure out that communication first.
I agree. All right. Should we dive into another call here? I would love to talk to Estevan calling from Texas. He would like to talk about the function of profanity. I love this topic. Hi, Estevan.
Hey, yeah, Estevan,
Estevan, thank you so much.
Analogy. I haven't thought about it before. And yeah, I've kind of grew up in a religious household until like 2 years ago. So I've been exploring and deconstructing a lot of things along the way. And one of them wasn't necessarily religious, but my religious parents and the institution would be like, profanity is just all bad. And like, I accept it on some scenarios and some conditions. Like there are many social situations where you wouldn't want to use vulgar language, although there are some social situations where vulgar language is expected, and you straight up won't fit in if you don't apply any. And I mean, I kind of have been thinking about that function for a while. Yeah, it kind of.
So what do you think?
Topic, but I'd like to hear you guys' response to that first.
Well, what do you think? I want to hear what you think first.
I think that it's not the kind of communication that I would like to be known for having. One thing I remember hearing a long time ago, I can't even remember the original quote, it's that long ago, was that like you can say with a swear word something much better in like an actually constructed sentence. Like anything you can swear about, you could probably form more eloquently and far more impactfully in a set of words. I think that has like a few exceptions, but I like the idea of it, and putting my brain in that thought process of like, you know what, swearing would be something, I suppose. But what if I instead expressed the thought succinctly?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I don't know, Eric, do you want to go first?
Sure. I swearing, profanity. I was also kind of taught that growing up, that like you know, it's just not something that we should engage in, that it makes you look well, it can make someone just look like, I don't know, maybe like a little bit less classy, or that they it's almost seemed like a character flaw in somebody. I think that I think my view on it now is that it's kind of just another kind of purity test that people kind of can arbitrarily put other people through. I think that language is mostly just a cultural thing. I don't think it's bad to say that maybe we shouldn't swear when we're like talking to our grandparents, or when we're in a situation where it maybe would be offensive to somebody. Maybe use that, you know, that discretion in that situation. But I don't think there's anything like morally wrong with swearing. I think that there's even been like, I don't know, I think there's been studies showing that like swearing can actually be good for you. It's a good way to kind of express your anger, because we've decided that it's a bad alignment of letters, and that when people say it, then it means something. But I don't know, I think there can be good uses for it, and I think there can be like just totally benign, like amoral, non-moral, not good or bad uses with swearing, and it mostly a cultural thing. But I don't know why it gets lumped into like religion and religious thought so much, other than it just, you know, there's a lot of things that people will tie with cultural purity to like some sort of faith position. But
I mean, it probably come from the religious, at least from the Christian religious perspective, it probably comes from like, thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain sort of thing. That's the way I would imagine, although I don't actually know that.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that was something that was a misunderstanding on my part for a long time, that we were, I don't remember where it got taught, but the idea that that scripture in particular meant to not use profanity, but
right.
Understanding
but it doesn't, right?
It's like, no,
it's like invoking, it's like, isn't it like trying to do like magic tricks basically by invoking?
Well, it's been a while since I
understand about like taking the Lord's name in vain from the congregation I came from was don't swear in God's name. Like, you know, I swear to God this, because you know, you probably shouldn't say that about someone you believe in, right? And the other was about, like you said, blaspheming, or trying to do something in God's name when you're probably
that's the one I was going to mention. The idea of like saying something like and saying that like this is taking it like with the authority of God, saying like this needs to happen because God says it, and you're using his name in vain for your own vanity. So that was another way that I understood it later on too. But
yeah, I mean, my perspective on like profanity, I guess, swearing, is that it's very context dependent, right? So I mean, both of you alluded to this, but I think as a society, we've sort of made it not cool to swear in front of, say, children or whatever in certain contexts. And I think that that's partially because swearing is often associated with like something negative happening. Maybe it's like an outburst of emotion, or a sign of like danger or pain or something like that. And it's a bit of an alarm, right? That's how I see it, is like, you know, if you swear, maybe something's going wrong and it sort of draws everyone's attention to it, depending on how you say it, right? Because Estevan, as you alluded to, there are some contexts where you just swear casually, and that's what's expected to sort of fit into a situation, right? And so I think there's a bit of code switching, if you know what that is, where, you know, when you're talking to certain people, you'll swear a lot more because that's just how you talk to those people. And it gets back to the fact that, you know, there's nothing about the actual words that's different. It's more about how you say them and what language you use. And Erin, to your point, there are studies that have shown that when you are swearing, you can endure a greater amount of pain for longer. So they did a study where they had people put their hands in ice water, and half of the people were not allowed to swear and the other half were. And the people who were allowed to swear were able to keep their hands in the ice water for longer periods of time. And so, I mean, I think it serves a lot of functions, and it's really about how you, as a person, you know, what importance you put on those words. And the words could be anything, right? It's like the same reason that the curse words that we have in, say, English are different from any other language. They may be related and they may not.
Right.
What do you think, Estevan?
I think I'd add a little bit to your like definition and attribution of the function of profanity in language, because there are a lot of swear words that are comparisons to objects or denigrating comments that you can make. Like, this is gonna be the first time I say this word. If I fall out of my chair, then someone resuscitate me. But,
okay, wait. I'm ready. We got to get ready here. This is your first time. Okay, this is your first time using this word?
Yeah, I've got to bunker down. I've never said this word before.
Okay, let's get ready. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Female dogs are bitches. And so when you call someone that, see, I'm not even saying it a second time. When you call someone that, you're calling someone a dog to dehumanize them. I almost fell out of my chair. I had to sit for a moment and process what I just did. So I think that function in language is also a big part of it, where you're also I'm going to get through my point. Or you're like denigrating someone, or you're conjuring to someone's mind like actions or thoughts that are not actually, that contextually make sense. So whatever
it's the context.
In the moment, that's why it kind of draws everyone's attention.
But do you think that most people, when they use the term bitch as a swear word, are thinking about the female dog, or are they using a different colloquial definition?
It's like asking what someone means when they say cool. I think it has changed a lot.
Right. I think that's a good comparison. Right? Like,
word as a female dog, or trying to actively denigrate someone. I would actually say, I think you're trying to get to the point that maybe less than 10% of people, as they say the word, actually think of a female dog.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think that most people do, because I think there's a lot in the way you say it, right? Like, there's a lot in, like, the force and the emphasis of how you might say that word that adds to the meaning.
Yeah. I think it's just overall, it's an interesting commentary on like how language works, and like swear words. I don't think like that's something that we have decided as like a culture that's those are the ones that are on the list. And I think that they kind of move in and out of severity depending on like where we're at with as a culture. And I think new words can become profanity, and then they can drop from profanity. And I think I mean,
good example is the word retarded, right? That was a medical term 50 years ago.
Oh, yeah,
and now it's completely inappropriate in most, I would say all scenarios, because it's moved through that in our culture. So I think it's just that.
Yep.
And I love that you said it, Estevan. Sorry, I'm saying it wrong again. I think you should go and say it a couple more times and really work on your different ways that you say it, because I think that MD is right, that it's all about how you say it. And I think that using it in the exactly appropriate kind of scenarios can be really, really powerful as experience for yourself. Yes, definitely. So maybe use it.
Don't
to your
be afraid.
Advantage.
Don't be afraid of sounds.
Nothing happened. Lightning did not strike you when you said it, because there's nothing magical about the words.
To get into kind of a second branch off topic about it.
Well,
we get to like maybe quickly branch off of the conversation if you'd like to get to another caller.
We do have some more calls online, but if you can like maybe give us a little teaser here about what the topic is, and if we can get through it quickly, we can do that. Go ahead.
I think part of it would be like you're encouraging me to try and say swear words more often, but it's kind of a bit of a hang up to me whether or not I should view it as reclaiming parts of language, or if it's going to end up turning me into a bit of a conversationalist that I'm not super into being.
Well, I just think you shouldn't be afraid. You shouldn't be afraid of words. You are the master of, what you say. Despite what I just told God about free will, I think that you control what you say and how you say it and when you say it. And I just wouldn't be too concerned about, I think it's more important that you communicate effectively. And in some situations, effective communication is going to require swearing. So like sometimes if one of my friends calls me and they've had a bad day and they describe something bad that happened, I go, man, that really fucking sucks. And I'm not being rude when I say fucking, right? It's a way of communicating, or me trying to communicate that I'm being empathetic, right? I'm empathizing with their situation. And I think that maybe I wouldn't be as effective if I didn't swear in that situation.
And ultimately, you had to make that call, MD, right? Like you are using
based
your own
on my relationship with that person
context,
and the context,
discretion there, and the situation that you're in, and you had that sense that this was going to add to the effect of what I'm saying, right?
Right.
But
exactly.
I do think you're right with that. Just to not be afraid of it. And Estevan, I think that the best way to find out how it's going to affect you is to maybe just try it. You don't have to, and you can look at yourself in the mirror and practice a couple swear words and decide you don't like it, and you don't have to use them. There's no pressure to use anything. But there's nothing to be afraid of. So I think that's a good way to move forward with that. And I think it's a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, well, I'm going to try and sing a couple Tim Minchin songs.
Yeah, perfect. That'll do it.
The atheist community Discord server is roasting me. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Shout out to the Discord server. It's a pretty good way to be informed.
Yeah, thank you.
Come chat with us in the Discord, and we'll all chant some curse words together after the show.
Yes.
Oh boy, I'll try.
That sounds awesome. Well, thank you so much for calling in. Hey, he mentioned Discord. We should mention Discord too.
Absolutely.
MD Aware and I will both be in the Discord after the show for a little chat. If you didn't get a chance to call in, or we don't take your call, or if you just want to come and practice swearing, we'll be there. So you can come join us at tiny.cc/ACD Discord. This is a fan-run Discord where we can continue the conversation. And before we get to our next call, because we do have a few more calls on the line, I think we actually found our patron of the week. So we're going to take a minute now. It doesn't matter when it happens. It matters that it happens. So this week, our patron of the week is James Fitzwater. So James, we didn't forget about you. We just had a little, little technical difficulty earlier. Thank you so much for being a patron. And if anyone else that's watching wants to help join that and support the show, you can do that as well. Okay. So let's move on. We've got some more calls, so let's just get into another one here. Let's talk to Mark. Mark's calling from Pennsylvania, and he has a question about religion getting a pass about speaking to people who aren't there. I'm not sure what we mean by that. Mark, thanks for calling in. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Hi.
Hello?
Yeah, what do you got for us today?
Yeah. All right. So the gentleman that called earlier God, as it were, and I was expecting a lot more from God if he actually existed, but he doesn't. And his constant use of the word faith and belief, and somehow that can justify anything you want to believe, and that your faith, outweighs my facts when it doesn't. And I'm a pretty much number 10 atheist, and it just seems that, like in any other circumstance, if someone were talking in a room to somebody who wasn't there, it would be called a psychosis or some type of mental illness, people who are constantly speaking to someone who's not there. And again, I'm not a doctor, but it just seems like religion gets there is no one, they're speaking to no one, and yet it's not like called out for what it is. You have no evidence. It's the denial of reality. It is a completely, made up story. and that there seems to be on the ACA a little bit of hesitance to call out these people. It's like, well, you're talking to no one. And when you hear him answer, it's always in your own voice. And that I feel like, religious people might qualify for having something of a mental illness, but you can't do it because too much of the world are believers.
So that's part of the thing, but I mean, I alluded to this previously on some shows, but for something to be a mental illness, it's not enough to have the symptoms, right? It also has to be causing distress. And so for some people who are religious and who talk to God, it is distressing, right? So we get people who come in through the Emerge who are properly psychotic, right? Like as in they are experiencing psychosis, and they may believe that they are Jesus, or they are God, or they're talking to God, or they're possessed by God, or maybe they're just some sort of prophet or something like that. And those people are in distress. And the fact that they are talking to God and potentially hearing things that God's saying is a symptom that helps you categorize them as having a mental illness, right? But the key is that it's causing distress. The thing is, for the vast majority of religious people, their 1/2-way conversations with God are not causing them distress, as you alluded to, potentially because they're living in a society where that's normalized, right? But I mean, this is the way that we categorize mental illness: is it has to be causing some sort of problem in the patient's life for it to be properly called a mental illness.
Not to cut you off, but I did read a certain amount online, and everyone says this. Like I have an idea and I Google it. That it seems to be like hurting people or being violent seems to be the metric by which, doing harm is what psychosis is about. But if all...
No, most people with mental illness are not violent. Most people with psychosis are non-violent.
There seems to be like, are they hurting anyone? And it's like, well, no, it's just their way of getting through life.
No, so that's not a diagnostic criteria, right? Hurting someone is not a diagnostic criteria for diagnosing a mental illness or psychosis specifically. You can be psychotic, you can be psychotic and never hurt a fly, right?
True.
Right.
They are still talking to someone who's not there. And there's a whole group of people who vote based on like the sayings of these preachers, who are of a being who doesn't exist. So, when they pass laws that, maybe take away voting rights or a woman's right to choose because of their discussion with someone who's not there, it seems like they still are committing violence against people.
So are you eager to, I won't say eager, do you want to identify this religious behavior as mental illness to invalidate those opinions? Or to call attention to the invalidity or the nonsensical aspect of those beliefs? Or what do you think?
Well, my first thing is, of course, that they're talking to someone who's not there. But right. I can't not observe that this does seem to, motivate people to, become part of the political process, which eventually causes people to lose, a certain amount of their rights or their dignity.
Sure. But why do you want to label them with a diagnosis of psychosis?
Why the correlation? Why connect those two things?
Yeah.
Because
I think
if I was in a room with someone or people, and I was talking to someone and they're like, who are you talking to? Mm-hmm. People would say you were crazy. And so,
yeah, but those people are not psychiatrists.
Literally,
yeah, and I can kind of see, like, I can see kind of where you're coming from in a way. Like there are some things that we could describe as being similar to it, because you're drawing on maybe one or two symptoms of something that we know to be a part of the whole the full diagnostic criteria for different mental illnesses. I think that it's important to be very wary of calling religious people, or you're trying to even connect the two things. I think one, that it's going to cause more defensiveness and things coming from people who maybe you are trying to have conversations with, by trying to say that they have a mental illness when that's not part of the diagnostic criterion. Having religious faith is not anywhere, has never been in the DSM-5 and all these things that we know about the mental illnesses that we study. The other thing is that I think it's we need to be careful that we're not harming people who do have diagnosed mental illnesses or who are struggling with that, because you did make the connection that psychosis could equal harming people, and MD Aware pointed out that that's not always the case. So I think it's really good to have a good understanding of what language you're using to describe something. I think that you're making a good point in the fact that you see harm happening. I think that's the bigger point you're making here, is that you see harm happening from people who have certain types of religious beliefs. And I agree with you. That's why we're doing this show in a lot of ways. We see that people make their decisions based on their religious beliefs and things that I would hard disagree on, and they're making their decisions with the way that they're voting and all of these things. But I don't think that it's fair to see the harm, the valid harm, and then link that to mental illness, because I think it just kind of does an injustice for everybody in the whole conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I've just two things to add, Erin, but you summarize that nicely. Remember, Mark, that just because, in the same way that someone doesn't necessarily have major depressive disorder if they're feeling sad, right? That sadness is one of the criteria for major depressive disorder. Just because they meet one criteria, it doesn't mean they have the disease. So in the same way, you don't have psychosis just because you meet one of the criteria of talking to someone who isn't there, responding to internal stimuli, that sort of thing. And the second is that you have to remember that diagnoses, mental health diagnoses, and all diagnoses exist to serve patients, right? They exist to guide people on how to basically treat patients with disease. If the patient's not being harmed, if the patient is not in any distress, you don't make a diagnosis of the mental illness. And so you simply can't use the mental illness diagnosis as an excuse to invalidate or attack those people. You can attack their ideas. You can attack the fact that you think they're talking to no one, but you can do that without invoking, a mental health diagnosis.
And you can bring up the fact that you see harm and kind of stick to that point, because I think that those are the things, if I'm reading this, your point properly here, that's what you're upset about, is that you see that it's causing, that you see the harm that it's causing. So sticking to that too, and not getting these other words and these, these other labels kind of mixed into it. Does that sound okay, well, Mark? I see where you're coming from.
That it's like, if we're all atheists here, the idea that people gather, every Sunday or, Friday night or whenever, that, there seems to be a carve out for religious people, but they're all gathering and singing and dancing and speaking, and they're all about this person who's not there. And that's an observation that needs to be taken into consideration.
And I think it is. I think it is being taken into consideration. I think that we observe that as well. And I mean, there's nothing about gathering or singing or any of the other parts that you mentioned that are strictly religious. I think that's human behavior in a lot of ways. But the other parts that you mentioned, that speaking to somebody who's not there, we do notice. We are taking notice of it.
The question is, what do you want us to do about that, Mark? Are you suggesting that the people who have those beliefs should be restricted from doing certain things?
No, I guess just in in the context of the shows that I watch on, the atheist experience and such, that sometimes we don't call them out as just like as much as we should, that it's like you have no evidence of anything. Who are you talking to?
I mean, we try to do that literally every call.
There's a balance here, right? Like we want to have a conversation. I think ultimately our goal isn't to just go like, maybe at least that's not our goal here. We want to have conversations with people. We want to hear why, like how they've got to their belief and kind of talk with them through it. So I know the first caller was, talking about, he's claiming his God. Of course, we understand that he was making a bit of a joke on it. It doesn't mean that we can't have a conversation and kind of play into it for a little bit for the purposes of having a conversation. So there's a balance though, because you don't want to push everybody away. Sometimes you just got to
meet people where they are and try to work with them, right? Because otherwise, every conversation would go the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's different formats for it too.
I just wanted to call and say what my truth was and see how you guys felt with it, because I know that everybody on these programs, thinks deeply about these issues, and I wanted no more than just to have this brief conversation.
Yeah,
and I appreciate both of your opinions.
That's great. I really appreciate you calling in, and I think that your frustrations are valid, and I think it's a good conversation. I think that everybody made some good points here. So
yeah,
I mean, thank you for calling in.
We agree with you, Mark. Right? We agree that like they're not really talking to anyone. So I mean, we're with you on that. It's just a question of
how to proceed.
Yeah, exactly. How to proceed.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna let you go, Mark. Yeah, thanks for calling in. You too. Yeah, I mean, I totally get the frustration there, right? And I think that in certain formats, sorry, I'm just going to talk about it for one more second. I think that in different formats, you can have that option. If you're frustrated, go on Reddit. You can call somebody whatever you want on Reddit. That's not what we've chosen to do here. I think that you do see that kind of, that kind of interaction all the time on the internet. And so, I think we've kind of come to an agreement here at the Atheist Community of Austin, or Truth Wanted specifically. We want to have conversations with people and give them, have some goodwill towards the people who call in, and not immediately put somebody on the back foot when it comes to a conversation. So yeah.
And I mean, I get where Mark's coming from, and I sort of see it as well. I've seen other hosts on different ACA shows really have a strong reaction to the comparison between belief and the like rituals around belief and mental illness. And I think that it's not a totally random connection, because there is an overlap in the behavior of believers and the symptoms of certain forms of psychosis, which is reflected in the DSM. But, just because, one or two of the symptoms are aligned doesn't mean that the whole diagnosis is aligned.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I get where he's coming from. But we just got to be really careful about diagnosing people with mental illnesses when we are not a psychiatrist and they're not our patient.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we've kind of mentioned some of the other shows here at the ACA. So this is a great time to just take a look on what has been going on through the other programs here at the Atheist Community of Austin. Let's take a look.
Should we talk about history in schools? Controversial topics.
Yeah, right.
Hey, white people did a lot of really messed up shit. Should we tell the kids?
Like a rigging set up in a few of the rooms, so like his the chandelier in a room would move on its own.
What?
And he had a couple other things. Yep.
What the kind of Scooby-Doo ass bullshit is this? Was he trying to rob the local town and pretend he was a ghost?
I don't know. Ollie and Alex Jones go together like eggs and bacon, full of cholesterol and might give you a heart attack. That's just kind of how.
We'll give it a couple minutes here, because apparently the theists are there's this sort of shrinkage that has happened with the confidence of the theists
that
late.
happens in nature.
So,
It's cold outside.
Hey, I believe that Jesus is the Son of God who died for our sins and was resurrected on the third day because the Bible says so. Well, that's, cool story, bro, but because the Bible says so, doesn't get us any closer to the truth.
God cares for the flowers and the birds, and he makes sure that they are fed and clothed and all this other stuff. No, what is it? Do not worry.
I'll tell you from memory, do not be anxious about anything, but through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. I've read the book, guy.
All right, so we do have some open lines here still if anybody wants to get their call in before the end of the show. We've got a couple on the line here. But before we jump into our next call, MD Aware, you knew that we had merch here, right?
Oh, totally. They say they're going to send me merch.
Yeah.
For like months, they've said, we're going to send you a t-shirt. We're going to send... I have not gotten anything. So they owe me merch.
Well,
I'm very miffed about this.
Completely unacceptable. I'm a little miffed as well because Dan mentioned a couple of weeks ago that it's not cool to wear your own show t-shirt, your own brand, if you will, on the show. And I've done that several times because, as I will continue to say, it's one of my favorite t-shirts. We do have a special t-shirt. I think there's a special design on right now. I think it's the last week to get in on one of those. We are going to be doing some special merch promos coming up here. So if you want to get in on that special, the one that was showing in the middle there, then always keep wanting the truth. That one is going to be a limited edition. So if you want to get that, you got to get it now or never. So
collect them all.
Collect them all. Yep, exactly. And we're working on some more cool stuff here at the Truth Wanted. So keep your eye out for the other merch coming up. So that's kind of my favorite thing right now is the new merch store. Okay, let's get into another call here. This is going to be a good one here. I'm glad to have you on the line with me here, MD. Let's talk to Gohan. Sorry, please tell me how you pronounce your name, from Texas. You'd like to talk about abortion.
Yeah.
First, tell me how you say your name properly, please.
Yeah, just like the Dragon Ball Z character, Gohan.
Gohan. Okay. Hi, Gohan. What would you like to talk about today? Great.
I was going to talk about my stance on abortion and just see if you guys kind of disagree with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Shoot.
Okay. My stance on really not just abortion, but it kind of expands, but you should not be able to kill another human organism unless you are at high risk of severe harm.
Okay.
Number one. Sorry, Erin, do you mind if I start?
No, you take it away.
This is more, I mean,
this is
okay.
I think you're going to do great.
Okay, so let's start with this. Why does the human part of that matter? Why is it you shouldn't be able to kill a human unless you're at risk of harm?
No, not just a human, because you can get down into like a human tissue, but I specifically put in there organism to identify that as different from human tissue.
So a complete human organism?
Organism or... Sorry?
You're saying a complete human organism?
Yes.
Okay. What do you mean by complete human organism then? What if I have my arm cut off in a skiing accident?
Your arm is tissue. It's not an organism.
Right. But the rest of me is not a complete human organism, right? Because I'm missing part.
I would disagree. I would say a complete human organism depends on the DNA. If it has 23 pairs of matching chromosomes, it is a complete human organism.
Okay, so if I put some of my cells and I grow them in a petri dish, those cells meet your chromosome definition.
Mm-hmm.
So is that a complete human organism?
Are those tissue or are those organisms?
Well, this is my question. I'm trying to figure out what you mean by a complete human organism.
And to be honest, it's not exactly up to me what I mean by complete human organism. It is according to biology that states a zygote is a organism and it's human. So
Okay,
I think that
but
okay. All human organisms.
So
are you?
I'm trying to understand where you draw the line, right? Because it sounds like you're agreeing that like a clump of cells is not a complete human organism, right?
It depends on if those cells are defined by biology as an organism. So a zygote is just a cell. It's not even multicellular, but it is defined by biology as an organism. So yes, a cell can be bacterial cells can be organisms.
Right.
I just looked up something here. Like I looked up the definition of human organism. It says here that a human organism consists of 11 organ systems, and they obviously go through like the skeletal system, muscular system, nervous system, but they also have things like the reproductive system. Like what happens, like there are people in the world who have had, severe accidents who have no more reproductive system and they have no lower extremities. I've seen these. I'm sure MD is aware of them as well. So the definition.
That's why they call me MD aware.
Yeah, you are aware of these things.
I ask
so
a question on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask is that definition a genetic definition? Because genetically,
it's from a medical website.
Well, there's multiple layers to medicine. I mean,
so Gohan, I'm gonna pull a bit of rank on this because I'm a medical doctor, and in about a month and a half, I'll also be a PhD in biology, biomedical engineering.
I'm a doctor.
So
therapy as well.
Sorry.
So I'm confused why you're trying to pull rank because you're a medical doctor.
No, because I'm just trying to tell you that like this definition of organism, this human organism definition, is not like a set defined thing. And I'm not trying to like attack you on it per se. I just want to understand what your argument is. So like I understand where you're trying to go. You're trying to say that okay, a zygote is a human organism and you shouldn't be allowed to kill that human organism. But a bunch of cells that say someone took from my liver and put in a petri dish and were growing, that are also a clump of cells which also have, the same DNA that I would have had as a zygote, are different. So I want to know how you, like in your mind, how are these two things different? Because I think they're different as well, but I want to know what you mean.
I think that's a fair question. The cells from your liver kind of built together to make tissue. So those are not organisms. Those can form into tissue and then eventually into an organ, but it's not an organism.
This is my point. Is I want to go away from this organism thing because I think that doesn't actually matter. Like I think it's sort of a red herring. It's just a label. So I want to know what you mean by it, and if I can help you. I think what you mean is I think the difference is the zygote is pluripotent and has the potential, those cells have the potential to become, what we would call an independent human being. Whereas the liver cells are not pluripotent, right? They're like unipotent basically, and they can only grow into liver tissue. And so they would never be an independent functioning being. Does that make sense to you?
That does. Yeah. So the fact of the potential to become an independent being, I don't agree with the word being for a scientific discussion with biology.
Sure. I agree with you. I agree. We'd have to find a better, but I think we understand each other for the purposes of this conversation.
Okay. So we understand that a zygote is a human organism?
Sure. I was trying to get away from the organism thing, but yes, okay, a zygote. So it seems like what you're saying is you don't think that anyone should kill an individual or something that has the potential to become an individual human, unless there's high risk of harm to themselves. Is that right?
I know you kind of want to go with that route. I just want to stay away from the idea of individual or being, because those are in scientific terms. But for the sake of argument, I'm okay.
Well, individual is.
But I would prefer more to stick to the scientific term.
I think that's fine. I think you have both come to like if I can moderate for just 1 second here. I think you have both come to an agreement. You're going to go with the label of human organism. You may have different definitions for that, but MD is going to grant that for the sake of this conversation. And then he's just kind of summarizing your call, which was that no human, and you've said human organism should be killed unless there is a high risk of harm. Is that correct? Does he have your position properly? Does he have that position?
I appreciate that very much. I think that summed it up well. The only thing I would change is high risk of severe harm.
Okay. Got that, MD?
All right. Then my question is, why do you think that?
Yeah.
I would say that's a fair question. And if you don't agree with that, that's fair. But this is kind of a basis of morality. If you think you should be able to harm human organisms that don't have that, I'm open to a reason why. I understand. I don't.
Okay, I'll give you what I think. I think that this has nothing to do with the genetics of the thing that you're harming. It has nothing to do with the organism of it being an organism or an independent being or anything like that. It has to do completely with suffering and wellness and well-being, and the fact that certain things that you would identify as human organisms have a greater capacity to suffer and be well than others. And I would even go as far as to say that non-human organisms have a greater capacity for suffering and wellness than some human organisms. So, for example, I do occasionally, I go and I collect organs for transplant from people who are brain dead. They have no capacity for suffering or wellness or well-being because they're brain dead. They are a human organism, an independent person, however you would want to describe it. But I don't think that it is wrong to effectively end that person's life. Again, we could debate what the definition of life is. Are you dead if your brain isn't functioning, or is it a clinical thing like heart and lungs or whatever? But I think that is, there's nothing wrong with ending that life in order to preserve other life, right? Would you agree with that example?
So if I can, I'll give my quick response. I do not like the idea of basing morality on what limits suffering. I know that's a big secular humanist idea. For me, it's very hard to distinguish that between that and utilitarian.
Well, I think it is utilitarian.
And that justifies the Thanos snap. So, like, I know I'm using a made up example, but I don't agree with the idea of limiting suffering as moral. And if we are getting on a topic of like what is moral, or like what's the basis of morality, I think we're getting a little off topic, which is a good topic, but I think we're veering away from the topic of abortion.
Okay, so I mean, we can go back, but you said your initial position was that no human organism should be killed unless there's a high risk of severe harm. And my question is,
it seems to be based in the reduction of harm. I heard you say the elimination of harm, Gohan, but I don't think that that's necessarily what what we would say. It's not the elimination of harm; it's the reduction of harm.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of sounds like you partially agree with me, at least, because you think that, well, if this person's going to do me harm, then I'm justified in killing them, right?
It depends on how severe the harm is and how high the risk.
If they're running towards me with a knife and they're going to stab me, I can shoot them. Say I have 100% knowledge that they're going to stab me.
Yeah, I'd say at like 50% knowledge, you're allowed to pull the trigger.
Okay, so why is that allowed? What makes that person's life worth less, or what justifies killing them to reduce my harm? Because harm is still factoring into your point here.
So, sorry, I'm a little confused on the question. It's a question, why
are you justified in killing someone just because they're going to harm you, in your view?
Because I believe that there's certain rules of morality that prohibit actions. Limiting severe harm would be a rule of morality that prohibits actions, not granting actions.
Oh, why? So what makes you? Go ahead, Erin.
I was just to say, how do you know that? How do you know that that is one of the declarations of the morality?
And that's why I think we're getting off topic. That's one of my beliefs.
It's true, we will. But I think that ultimately the conversation on abortion almost inevitably goes to the conversation on morality. So I'm not opposed for this whole thing to kind of go that way, because I think it almost always does.
I mean, I think at least we can say that you and I don't want to speak for Erin. I don't know if you agree with what I've said so far. But like, at least Gohan, you and I disagree on that sort of fundamental thing with respect to like what the value of suffering and well-being is, right? You don't think it's necessarily important. You think that there are other things that we should consider.
Yes. I mean, even if my cousin who is can't feel consciousness is about to die tomorrow, and you try to kill them today, or I'm not going to say you, I'll say Bob down the street tries to kill them today. I can kill Bob down the street. That won't limit my cousin's suffering. It would actually add more suffering into the world since I killed somebody else. But Bob down the street does not have the right to take a human organism's life that does not bring high risk of severe harm.
Why? Can you tell me why?
I'll be honest, I cannot, but that is my stance, and I was just wondering if you guys could poke holes in it.
Well, I mean, I think... go ahead,
I do
Erin.
have one more question. Is like how are you setting the parameters for what is severe harm?
I think that's honestly the most important question. And if you can give me a second to give a full response.
Sure, go for it.
I'll be...
We're not the Atheist Experience. We won't cut you off.
Well, I could, but I probably won't, because I don't think I could. We're halfway Canadian here. Go ahead.
I don't know what would be the cutoff limit of high risk or severe harm. I just think whatever that limit is, it should be consistent for all human organisms. So whatever that limit is for a 5-year-old should apply to a zygote and fetus. And same with a 99-year-old.
So it doesn't, to you,
I don't know
it doesn't...
is, but
sorry, are you not done? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just recapping that I don't know what the limit is, but I think it should be consistent.
Okay, and you think it should be consistent regardless of what the capacity to suffer, the capacity for suffering would be?
Correct.
So based on kind of an essentialism that they're human, and that's why they shouldn't. That's why it should be consistent, not based on what it like. We can't really. We're not going to measure anything. We're not going to be able to actually say how much harm they're going to be placed in, but it has to do with the fact that they are, this word, human.
Correct.
Okay.
So can I ask you, Gohan, not from a logical perspective, from a personal perspective, why do you believe that? Why do you believe there's something special about sort of being a human organism?
So I think when we go into that question, only two answers are both bad. I think one is speciesist, which is just you hold humans in a higher regard for naturalistic reasons. I know Matt Dillahunty has said that, and honestly, I don't have a good answer for that naturalistic view. My answer, I think, is equally as bad. Pretty much it comes down to my religion, that I believe that God has an infinite amount of love for each individual human. He loves you as much as he loves me, and same with the zygote. And it's that infinite care that prevents me from harming that human.
I really appreciate your honesty on that. I really appreciated that. Yeah, thank you for that. That's good. My question for that, it would be just that if that is kind of like when we get down to the root of it, that it's because your religion decrees that you shouldn't do it. So why not call in with that, and say like, I don't think abortion should happen because God doesn't want them to happen, because my religion says so.
My argument isn't that God doesn't want it to happen. That's a indirect.
Sorry, yeah, that is a little bit of me. I kind of did not represent you well there. Why? I guess it would say, why I don't want abortion to happen because I believe that God has given each human this, the spark, or however you would describe that. Because then the conversation would come down to what is that spark? What is the God's image? What is the soul? Like it kind of goes in a different direction.
Or I think the ultimately, if I can sort of skip to the end a little bit, Gohan, Erin and I will never agree with your point of view unless you go back to proving that this God exists, or convincing us in some way that this God exists, right? Because we're not going to believe, or validate anything that this God allegedly says or believes or feels until we know that this God even exists in the first place, right? So I know that that's like a whole different kettle of fish that you maybe don't want to have a conversation about. But like, if you want to be persuasive to us, you have to, go to your foundation and take us along all the way.
I disagree. My quick response to that would be, there are plenty of atheist pro-life people who have agreed to the idea for naturalistic reasons, kind of the same ones that Matt Dillahunty agrees with, that humans should be valued. Christopher Hitchens was pro-life. There's a group on YouTube called Secular Pro-Life. All of these have the same argument that I displayed at first.
Yeah. I agree with you, but I guess I'm talking about Erin and I specifically.
Yeah, and I'll agree with I'll put it out there too. I agree with you, MD, that I think that would be the most persuasive kind of thing here for me.
Yeah, I think if my morality being based in religion, again, my stance on abortion is not based on religion, but my morality is. If that's an issue for me,
but hang on, your stance on abortion is based on your morality, which is based on religion, right?
Right. So it's an indirect link, but there are those out there who have their senses on abortion exactly like mine, but their morality.
Right, but they use a different foundation.
People can have a mix of different, they don't have people have different politics.
Yeah. Okay. I get you. Yeah. I mean, I guess, I think we found our impasse, right?
Yeah.
Gohan?
Yeah.
I disagree to give up, but I don't think.
No, I'm not saying that you have to admit defeat. I think I'm just saying that our impasse is, our conversation is no longer about abortion. Our conversation is now about either God, or if you want to try to convince us of this humanistic principle that we should value human life above other life for some reason.
I think,
but I know that's not your position.
The purpose of my call, my call was not to convince you. It was to my call wasn't to convince you guys; it was to see if I could become unconvinced of my stance.
Okay.
If I am convinced, I want to see if it's appropriate or not. So the best way to do that is engage with people who think differently.
And I really appreciate that, and I think that that's like a super honest position to come from. I think that it's been a really good call. I do feel like there was like everybody was being very genuine, trying their best to answer this. So I think that's a great idea to call in and see how do people that don't agree with me look at this, and how can I either improve my argument or just discard it. So thank you for calling in.
Yes, and it has been a great call. I think that our like the hole that I would poke is I would say I don't understand why you're caring about human life specifically, because I don't see a reason why. Something as arbitrary and like diverse as genetics should matter at all. So like if you want to go a little bit more scientific, you can go to your diagnosis or your definition of like a human organism being like something with 23 paired chromosomes, and you could point to people who have genetic syndromes like trisomy 21, right? They don't have 23 paired chromosomes. So are they still human?
I would say that's inclusive. That's an inclusive definition, not an exclusive one. So if you have 23 pairs, you are a human. It doesn't exclude you if you don't have exactly 23. But if you do, then you are a human organism.
So is a banana also a human because it has a different number of different number of chromosomes?
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how many matching chromosomes a banana has.
I think it has like 50 something. But it's beside the point, right? Like I just think that genetics is not necessarily a great way to define what a human is. I mean, it kind of is, but
I thought that's
there's a lot of problems with it.
I mean, that's what I learned genetics does, is that defines organisms into different areas, whether like you can look at the genetics of something and define or categorize what organism it is. So I was taught that is what defines an organism.
Not really, right? If you're talking about different species, then it has a totally different definition. And it's a very, blurry definition.
So
you know what the definition of a different species is?
Go for it.
Well, so the most common definition that biologists use for two different species is that they can't produce viable offspring when they breed.
So they will not have the correct amount of matching chromosomes?
It doesn't have anything to do with chromosomes necessarily.
So their chromosomes wouldn't match when they breed, and
it could be because of that, or they could have matching chromosomes, right? They could have matching chromosomes, but for some other reason, they don't produce a viable offspring. You could even, you could make the argument that a greyhound and a Yorkie are different species because they can't produce viable offspring, right? Because they physically can't breed with each other because one is really big and the other one's really small. That's a biologically founded definition of a different species, but we don't do that because we don't consider those different species. We consider them breeds within a species because the definition of species is blurry. It's not defined. I think you need to refine what? Sorry?
Sorry. My question was, if you looked at their DNA, would you be able to identify which species each dog is?
Which breed, you mean? Or what do you mean?
Yes.
I think he meant breed.
Yeah, breed. Yeah.
You might be able to, but you'd have to have something to compare it to, right? This is what I mean. Species is a kind of arbitrary category. It's a made up category. There's nothing like fundamental that makes things different. Humans are considered to have arisen about I think around 200,000 years ago, somewhere around there. From an evolutionary perspective, if you compared our genetics to the genetics of a human from 200,000 years ago, you would probably consider them a different species. But we don't, because we know we can basically trace a direct line all the way down from them to us. And so we consider them the same species. This is what I mean. There's no really hard definitions of what a species is. It's like, if you zoom way out, it's very obvious. But if you zoom in, you can't really tell where one ends and the other one begins.
Yeah, I think that there's 2 points. Yeah, I think that there's 2 points that are going to come up over and over again for us. It's going to come down to, like, you know, like what MD is saying, like how you're defining, you know, human organism or human life or being, which we're not gonna go into that right now. But and then also the aspect of the harm and how are we measuring harm and that sort of things, because I think that is the other way that could become persuasive for me. I'm just trying to think of how I could change my mind on this too. If someone could convince me that the amount of harm that comes to a zygote is far outweighs the harm that could come to a person who is experiencing an unwanted pregnancy, like maybe that's something that could be discussed, and also I could change my position on that a little bit. So I think there's 2 areas here that you can go away from this call and go and refine and come back and call us again, and we can have this discussion some more and continue to discuss this.
Okay, yeah.
Does that sound good to you?
If I could just really quick, my original argument was that I don't believe abortion is okay because I don't believe you should be able to kill a human organism unless there's high risk of severe harm. Both of you guys kind of have issues with the definition of like human organism, and because of that reason, you're kind of rejecting my claim. Is that a fair summary of the conversation?
It's not really for me. I mean, I think that's a problem. Okay. You were kind of asking us to poke holes in your argument, so I would poke holes there. I agree with Erin's holes that she poked in terms of the thresholds of harm. I just flatly disagree that there's anything special about humans. I think that it's all about suffering and wellness or well-being, and that other species have the capacity individuals in a different species, non-humans, have the capacity to suffer more than some humans. And I think that it's all about suffering and not at all about humans.
And then I would say that I think I maybe rejected on the fact that like it's not relative to anything. Like it is obviously an objective statement. So I would want to know in the context of in relation to what, like no human should be killed unless there's a risk of in regards to what, like in what's the situation, because to me that's a statement made without any context. So
and the last thing that I'll say is for the sake of like completeness is that I would say that in every case, pregnancy has the potential to be severely harmful to the person carrying the pregnancy. It's like one of the most dangerous times of life. It has an entire medical specialty devoted to the care of those people who are otherwise healthy. Before the advent of modern medicine, a small number of women, a significant number of women died in childbirth, right? It's not a benign thing. And to infer that all pregnancy is safe except in these rare circumstances, I think is wrong. I think that pregnancy is always potentially dangerous.
So I might call back with more of an argument about basis of morality, because it did go that way.
Please do.
I also like just end on that last note. I think he's correct that there is always risk of severe harm, but that's why that other word is in there. How high is that risk? That risk has to be equivalently high to kill a 5-year-old.
Right. So you'd have to, like Erin was saying, you'd have to define what thresholds you want to use for high risk and for severe harm. But I agree with Erin. I think you should totally go back, refine some of your arguments, and call us back another time, and we can progress the discussion. This was like the most fun abortion call that I could possibly imagine.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, thank you. I think we'll let you go on this note. I really appreciate you calling in, and we do hope to hear from you again.
It was a great call. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Take care.
See, guys, everyone out there in YouTube land, we're not so scary here at Truth Wanted. We can have civil conversations even if we vehemently disagree with you.
Yeah, we'll try our best to get through it and get the clarifies and do all of that. So, yes. Like you said, it was one of the, what did you say, in the most fun abortion call ever.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can see how on another show this might have gone totally off the rails and gone into swearing and hanging up, but
yeah,
we're cool as cucumbers here at Truth Wanted.
We try.
Put that on a t-shirt, Greg.
Cool as cucumbers. We try. All right. A couple of things here. We actually, we do have one more call. I'm not sure if you want to stick around for one more minute here, but I'll give you a second to decide that, because first I want to talk about the ways that you can connect with us here at Truth Wanted. You can go on to our Facebook group is one way. We mentioned Discord earlier, and that we also have a Facebook group at tiny.cc/ this is hard for me, FBTW frick, I don't know.
Take two.
FBTWG. There we go. That is our Facebook group. I don't know why it's so complicated for me to say that out loud. But that's a really great place to connect and meet other people and bounce around these ideas. Even if you've been thinking about calling in the show, go on there and kind of refine what your call is going to be about or bounce some ideas off people there. It's also just kind of a fun place to hang out. So that is a good place. Then we also are going to, hang on here, I've got 1,000 things popped up. I got all confused when I tried to say that link every time. Okay, and then, oh yeah, sorry. We're gonna take that call, I think. We're gonna do it if you're okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it right now, actually. Let's get into this last call of the night. This will be the last one. Let's talk to John. John is from Canada. Hello, John. How are you today?
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay.
I just want to say that.
First of all, John, sorry, I have already muted you. As long as I'm sure who I'm talking to here, John, I'm just going to give you a few minutes here because our show is pretty well at the end here. So if you could be really quick and just tell us what you want to talk about today, we will give you a few minutes to chat. Go ahead.
Because I heard the other guy, and I have to say that I agree with him that abortion should be banned.
Okay.
It's mass murder. It's murder on a massive scale.
Okay. Why do you think it's wrong?
Because you're killing humans. No matter how you.
You were listening to the last call. You sat and listened to the whole thing.
No, but I do know that he was against it. You know.
Okay, so the question, I'll ask you the same question I asked him, which is, why does it matter whether they're human or not?
Because humans can think, they can feel. An animal can't.
Some humans can think and feel. Some humans can think and feel. Not all humans can think and feel.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
So if there's a person who's brain dead, they're a human, but they can't think or feel.
And your point?
So that's an example of a human who cannot think nor feel. And in the same way, a bundle of cells with no nervous system can neither think nor feel. Right?
But it will be someday when you let the pregnancy happen.
But that's not the point, right? You said that it's wrong because you're killing someone who can think or feel. So is it that they can think or feel, or is that they might in the future think or feel?
They will think or feel. They will.
Maybe.
Okay, that's different.
Maybe. like 50% or something of pregnancies, John, some high percentage of pregnancies will undergo spontaneous abortion, right? Non-medical abortion, just natural, so those pregnancies would never think nor feel.
So you don't want to interfere with that. Let that happen by itself.
But you're missing the point. So is it wrong?
Okay,
so John, would it be wrong if I could predict with 100% accuracy which pregnancies would spontaneously abort and abort those pregnancies ahead of time? Would you be okay with that?
No.
Sorry?
Sorry, John. I did have you on mute for a second, and the button.
I didn't hear your response. Can you say it again?
No, we do not.
Okay, why?
I believe it's up to a higher power to decide.
Why?
Prove the higher power. Show us the higher power.
Because it's God. He decides.
Okay, so then you have to prove God exists before we'll be on board with your argument.
Let me ask you this question. If you're so sure
one last question, and then we're gonna get.
Go ahead.
Girl, if she was in front of you, would you kick a pregnant girl in front of you? Kick her right in the stomach. Would you do that?
No.
Why not? It's the same thing. Why not?
No, it's not.
Same thing.
Not the same thing.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
You're still killing the baby, so I don't. Yes, it is. What?
John, I'll tell you the difference.
Yes.
The difference is that, number one, I'm harming the mother by kicking her. And number two, I'm harming the mother, potentially, if she wants that pregnancy, by ending that pregnancy, potentially. My concern is not for the fetus. My concern is for the mother.
It is straight. When they want to get pregnant, all she has to do is keep her legs closed. It's a choice.
And you're dropped. Sorry, John. I don't have the patience today for that. And that was the end of our show. Sorry, MD.
See,
I'm going to end that right there.
No.
John.
This is a really good example. Two examples of two polar opposite abortion calls.
Yes.
You could choose the John way, or you could choose the right way to do these calls. We can be civil, or we can get our teeth out.
I just hung up on that on him, right? And the last person, I could have talked to that person for another half an hour. It was great.
Exactly.
Yes.
If you're reasonable and respectful, we'll let you talk for 30 minutes.
Yeah. And come call us and make some sense. Come call and have an idea of what the heck you're going to ask us about to start off with. Don't just say, that guy doesn't like abortion. I have no idea what he said about it, but I agree with him. So, meh. And then move the goalpost 100 times. So that's what I foresaw coming. So I don't think it was worth it. I don't appreciate comments like that at the end. So sorry, John. I'm not sorry. Anyway, MD, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This has been awesome. I feel like
pleasure was mine.
We got right into calls and we just that was awesome. So we're going to continue this party on a little after the show too on the Discord. So if you want to come join us there, that would be great. If you do want other ways to kind of get involved with the show or support the show, we also have our YouTube membership. And I think we finally upgraded all of the emojis. Finally, there's a cartoon version of more than just, there they are. So cute. I love it.
I've got two.
So if you want to join the Patreon the membership, you can do that. I think it's just a buck or two a month. So that would be awesome. And then if you want to, reach out to us and email us, you can always do that too. We try to respond to those in a timely manner. The email address is atheist-community.org. I always get those two confused. Please don't call me dumb. Last of all, I'd like to really say thank you to the crew. I feel like they've been putting up with more than usual from me tonight. So if we can take a look at the crew cam. Thank you, crew. I'm sorry that I made so many mistakes tonight. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. And MD, do you have any words of wisdom? Because I clearly don't have any right now.
If you want to talk at any time, you can reach out on Twitter at EMDEEAWARE. It's MD aware, but all spelled out. Yeah. That's me. There's also the AEN podcast network, so you can see any of our shows through AEN podcast. The link is tiny.cc/AEN podcast. I listen to all the shows through my podcast app. I don't really watch on YouTube because I take it to the gym. Nothing gets me fired up more than hearing some of these arguments.
Nice. Awesome.
But you're on Twitter too, right,
yeah.
Erin?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, just at the ExXtian or ExXtian Erin. There you can go on and see what kind of shenanigans I get up to there, and how I also mispronounce things and make a fool of myself. So yeah, so that's all for tonight. Thank you everybody for hanging out with us for this last little bit, and remember to always keep wanting the truth.
Erin, we gotta change that.
Yeah.
Always keep wanting the truth thing.
Oh my gosh.
It's like that never stopping thing.
I know. Wanting the truth.
Never stop always wanting the truth.
Never stop always wanting the truth. That's the one. That's the one.
Watch The Non-Prophets and join the hosts in the live chat, Sundays at 3 p.m. Central, between The Atheist Experience and Talk Hidden. Visit tiny.cc/YTNP.